I'm encouraged by you sitting through the executive board meeting, because the things that y'all are doing, I wish all the counties were doing, as far as the efforts in the community and getting out the vote and making sure that we're doing everything from, Jeep parades to for President Trump, everything that you're doing, those things matter. And those things are really, but we've got to do more of that in North Georgia, because North Georgia is literally the reddest of the red. And as we know, that Atlanta area is changing, and our votes in Georgia have changed, so we need North Georgia more now than ever before to turn out in great numbers, and South Georgia, the rural parts of our state. But thank you for all that you are doing in that regard. I wanted to kind of tell you about the past year before I begin talking about the future. And I'll tell you that it's been a crazy year. On June 27th, it was a Saturday. I looked at my wife with tears in my eyes, and I just told her, I said, I feel like today is the first day I've had off this year. And it's been really rough on everybody. But I also want to remind you that, that's what inspires me so much about Governor Kemp. If you get a chance, and if you got his number, or if you got any way of reaching out, just send him a message of some kind to encourage him to keep going, because as I told Governor Kemp several times, I said, I truly believe there's a man of purpose, and God's plan, God's purpose for the time such as this. And I said, there's no doubt in my mind, Governor, you are such a man that for such a time as this. Because I can't imagine, number one, what we would be going through if Stacey Abrams had won. And I can't imagine, and I really can't imagine anybody else in our state being able to handle everything and do everything in the manner in which he's done. I mean, to be called out even by the President of the United States saying, y'all are opening up too fast in Georgia. The truth of the matter is, we didn't have no alternative. We're not the Northeast, and there's two factors, and I know this is why Governor Kemp made that decision that we're going to start opening things back up. Because in the first 2 months, we've been out $2.2 billion in unemployment claims. And we were already into our rainy day funds. And there was no way we could sustain that. Biggest thing is our number one industry in Georgia is agriculture. We might not think about that a lot in North Georgia, but South Georgia is still where the lifeblood of this state's economy comes from. And so agriculture, that produce was just sitting on the vine and going to die if we didn't get it moving. And so I know a lot of areas that have done like bringing South Georgia vegetables, Georgia grown vegetables from South Georgia to North Georgia, and we've been doing all kinds of things trying to help them move it. But literally we had to open up because of agriculture. Secondly, Georgia, unlike a lot of the northeastern states, we have a very high yield of hourly paid employees who work in Georgia, as opposed to being salary paid employees. We're not, a lot of northeastern states, they have a lot of salary paid employees for big companies and big corporations, where we have a lot more mom and pop shops that people work by the hour. And if those people aren't working, they're not getting, their only option is unemployment. And so that was, we were forcing people into unemployment, so we had to open things up. But that took a lot of courage and a lot of guts, and a lot of heavy lifting and making decisions. And I just, I praise the governor every time I see him. That, so I just encourage you, if you have a way of just reaching out to him and saying, you hang in there, Governor, we've got your back, and because you've got ours. And so anyway, we go from January to March 13th, all of a sudden he comes, and we're sitting there, and you get mentally prepared for the session. When you come, your legislative session's coming, you have to psych yourself up for it, because it's 3 months of 90 to nothing days, and long hour days, and running back and forth to North Georgia to South to Atlanta. And so you psych yourself up. Then the 13th came, and all of a sudden the brakes came on, and Lieutenant Governor suspended our afternoon business and came back and said, okay, we're going to finish today's business, and then we're suspending session for the rest until later notice. And so then we came back in on Monday. We passed a resolution for the state of emergency to give the governor all this power that he normally doesn't have, to which I think he's used extremely well and wise. That's the other part. We gave him a lot of power, and he literally, has been a very good self-checker to make sure he's not going beyond what he should be. And So then after that, of course, now I've got a primary challenger, and thank you for your help in the primary, those of you that live on the west side of the county. But I had a primary challenger, but by that time, my phone is starting to blow up, and literally for 14 hours a day, I told my wife, it's amazing, being a 30-year juvenile probation officer had prepared me for those 8 weeks, because for 8 weeks I was literally on the phone 14 hours a day. Every call that came in was either anger or fear, screaming at me. And my 30 years of being a juvenile probation officer somehow strangely prepared me for that, because I could have the patience for it and work through those people. So go for maintenance that. Then all of a sudden I have a primary challenger. I go into the primary, come out of the primary, thankfully, thanks to y'all's help, 62% of the votes on every precinct in all 4 counties, even though I got outspent 5-1. That was the other thing. We were still in session, so I still couldn't raise money. So that was the hard thing on those of us in the legislature. We still couldn't raise money so I couldn't raise money until June 27th was when I was finally allowed to raise any money. But came out of that, and that's when I looked at my wife and said, it's just been a crazy year. It's been a crazy year for everybody. It's been a crazy year for all of us. And I think, and I just say that, but God's still on His throne. God's still on His throne, and even going forward, just keep praying for as us talking, keep praying for your community leaders. Pray for our state leaders. Pray for our president and the federal leaders. But most importantly, pray for your neighbor. Don't forget to pray for your neighbor in these times, because I know we get so caught up in the news that sometimes we see the bigger picture, but we forget the little picture. But the big picture means nothing unless we're focused on the little picture. So let's just make sure that we're praying for our neighbors and checking on our neighbors and taking care of one another in our communities the best we can. And the rest of it will work itself out, I promise you. So what do we have going ahead? First of all, this coming session, right now that we're going to have in January coming, it's going to be an eventful, but it's all going to matter on whether or not the Democrats are trying to think that they have a shot at winning the House. And of course, this is all very important because we got reapportionment coming up and redrawing the district lines. And if anybody was around, I was the chairman of the Republican Party in Whitfield County in 2000 when the Democrats drew the party into the maps in 2000, and that's when we literally had a House District 1A and 2A. I mean 1A and 1B. They put 2 representatives in a district. It was the most convoluted thing you'd ever seen. You remember those? And it was just, but they got challenged in the courts, and thankfully the court challenges, they won. They had to redraw the maps, but by that time, thankfully, we had gotten Governor Perdue, the first Republican elected in our state ever in Georgia's history. And so it gave us the opportunity to come back and draw honest maps. And of course, 2010, after reapportionment, those maps were drawn honestly, and they weren't even actually challenged. So hopefully, but this year I would just say that Obama is still with us. And the Obama holder machine has raised what I was told is $5.5 million that they have planned to challenge state maps, and because after reapportionment, and they're coming into Georgia's definitely going to be the first on their list because the governor just won 50.2% of the vote in our state, and so they think Georgia's up for grabs. So we've got to do everything we can, and just and look forward. That's going to be the thing on top of the big number one thing on the table for us is just reapportionment and what we're doing there. We've already been to classes and been told, they've already been lectured on the legal sense of reapportionment. So don't anybody ever call me and say, hey, can you send me a copy of the current maps y'all have? Because we have stressed to us, do not even text your friends about reapportionment. Don't even mention it because of Open Records Act, anything you ever text or send could come back to you in a lawsuit. And so that's going to be a very tedious process for all, especially when we know the court challenges are coming. But I will tell you this, as I said before, God's still on His throne. Governor Kemp is still governor. President Trump is still president. And if we do our part, and stay faithful and continue to pray. That's got to be part of it. Continue to pray. There's no doubt in my mind that, we're going to be on the right path on the other side of November 3rd. But, it's a faithful people that God hears. It's not a faithful government, it's a faithful people. It's the cries of the people. So I just continue to just reach out to your churches, encourage everybody just to pray for the election, because we really need we need God's help right now. And I look at history, and one of the things I remember from history is during the Constitutional Convention of 1787, when it was literally, you got to understand, we've been through struggles like this before, but the Constitutional Convention, I've always said the worst enemy of freedom is want. And it's not just Democrat want, it's just any want to the foundations of freedom. And want had come into the room in 1787 during the Constitutional Convention, and because want was starting to divide the room, and the delegates there at the convention were starting to go in different direction, and by this time, Ben Franklin's an elder statesman. 1787, we're far removed from the 1770s with the Declaration of Independence and everything that preceded the Declaration of Independence. So Ben Franklin and that's when he rose to the well. And I can imagine then Ben Franklin just being the elder statesman in the room that didn't speak often, but when he did speak, everybody hushed. So Ben's speaking, hush, I got to hear this. And that's when he just called everybody to prayer. And that's when he uttered the words, he said, if a sparrow cannot fall from out of the sky without God's notice, is it probable that an empire can rise without his aid? And I've always said that, in my view, and historically, that prayer in that moment in time was a turning point. It was a turning point because that Constitutional Convention was about to fall apart. But if that had not been for that prayer in that moment in time to bring everybody back to the center and back to focus, it would have all been lost. And so let's just keep hoping, let's just keep working, keep door knocking, keep putting the signs out, and on November 4th, we can all celebrate and just praise God for the outcome of what comes. I thank you for letting me be here. I love you all. As I said, it's amazing how some counties are no longer, it's a testament to David Schaefer, our state party chairman, and I will say this, and I said this a minute ago, back in the 90s when we were in the minority party, we were the grunts in the world of politics. We did all the work at the county level, and to get out the vote and all the work, but you got to understand, a lot of counties aren't doing that anymore. To sit here and watch this executive committee I got to watch a minute ago was just a pure pleasure to me to see that it's still being done like it's supposed to be done. So I commend y'all for what you are doing here, but our state party, thank goodness for David Schaefer, and he was the executive director of the Georgia Republican Party back in the 90s when I was chairman of the Whitfield County Republican Party. So that's how David and I came to know each other long before I made it to the Senate. And but David now being over the state party, he sees that, and the state party now has a grassroots that work directly on the state party network group that unlike any time before. And these are paid and volunteers that are now working out to develop, that are doing a lot of the ground game that used to we'd spend on we expect county parties to do. The state party we expect county parties to do. But sadly, you're not getting that in a lot of counties. So I just say thank you for what you are doing, because literally, as I tell people, freedom is just like our salvation. Freedom never comes by command or demand. Same as your salvation doesn't come by command or demand. Freedom only comes, the true sense of freedom comes when freedom is claimed within the hearts of men and women. That's right. When we claim it unto ourselves, just like our salvation. And so everything that you're doing is literally in that sense. It's not just to serve yourselves, but to serve God and the next generation of Georgians. And for them, I'll just say thank you and God bless you.